certainly we've got we've kind of started the discussion during our virtual networking. So I'm looking forward to continuing it as well too, and really just hearing what how things are changing, how workspaces, real estate, businesses are adapting to meet these changing workforce needs. So first of all, I want to thank our speakers today, including Demetrius Manius from Land and Sea Real Estate. Oh, actually, can we go? Yeah, there we go. So thank you, Demetrius, our trusty moderator. Thank you to John Profit from UKG, and also my board of directors. John, thank you for joining the conversation. Thank you to Crystal Kittredge from LYF Architects, and also to Lisa Maroney from the town of Chelmsford. I look forward to hearing the conversation and we'll meet everybody in just a second. But before I hand it over to Demetrius and to the speakers, just a little bit of housekeeping. We do keep these as webinars as opposed to meetings because we like to focus the attention on our speakers. I think it's easier it's nice to follow the conversation, and we want to make certain everybody is able to eat their lunch without everybody watching what you're doing. But we do want to know who's out there, who's listening. We want to use this meeting as a way to connect with others. So I ask if you could put your name, your company contact information, something about your company in the chat box, and why you're here. Why are you interested in the subject, and what questions you may have for the speakers as well too. And we do hope to open it up to questions around 12:45, and then we will end at 1 o'clock. And I think, is that it, Steph? You're controlling this PowerPoint. So yeah, that's about us. Oh, we do have a question, and I think we have a poll as well too. So we have an upcoming event in January. We did this last meeting we did was in person in Chelmsford, and that was great to see everybody. And there's value in Zoom as well too. But I'm love to hear from everybody as far as your comfort level. And yeah, we do have it. Okay. Yeah. So whether it's the January 27th meeting. Or, we can't really tell into the future at this point, but we just would love to hear from people as far as what your comfort level is with in-person meetings. And if you're able to just click on the poll.
How come panelists can't vote?
Oh, is that right?
No.
No. Oh, the panelists can't vote. Oh, we're going to hear enough from you, though. But that's okay. No. Well, you can just jump in right now if you'd like.
Well, I think we should be in person.
All right. But I don't think so. I think online at this point, I don't know if everyone can see the results coming in. But definitely online was winning. I'm going to just end it right now. I don't think we have everyone, but that's fine. And online was definitely winning it, but then in person gained some speed, but it's fairly, I think it was more split than I thought it would be.
I guess I'm not as much of an influencer as I thought. Oh, well.
I ended it really quickly after you said that. So that could be why as well.
You did. I think you're 2 weeks. I think if you ask, I wonder if you move the date, I'm not implying we should, 2 weeks out to mid-February, would you see a lot more people kicking to in-person? Because, with all the sort of study I've done around Omicron, it looks like it's going to start easing up toward the end of January, fingers crossed, right?
That's what I'm thinking. I think that's a great point as well too. So we'll get rid of this PowerPoint and so that we can start the conversation as well, and we can all focus on the four of you guys. And I'm going to hand it over to Demetrius, and you can kick it off. How's that?
Excellent. Thank you so much. Cool. Thanks, Stephanie. Welcome everybody. My name is Demetrius Manius. I'm the moderator for today. Now, if any of you have never been to one of our webinars, basically we approach this very in a relaxed sort of way. It's almost like a coffee chat, so to speak. If we're like 4 or 5 people sitting around a table having a conversation, and just over a couple of brews, and we would just basically be chatting and seeing if we can come up with some ideas and some other questions. And of course, towards the end we open it up to questions for anybody who might have some ideas or some thoughts or anything for our panel of experts. So First off, let me just introduce myself. My name is Demetrius Spinaeus. I'm the owner and president of Land and Sea Real Estate, along with my wife and business partner, Joanne. We're a boutique brokerage. We focus on investment development, not only New England, but all over the US, and also luxury residential. And let's kind of go around. All the panelists can say a few words about themselves and what they do, please. I'm going to go to my right. Say, Crystal, please, after you.
Hi, I'm Crystal Kittredge. I'm a senior interior designer for LYF Architects in Andover, Massachusetts. I have over 2 decades of experience as an interior designer on the commercial end. My primary focus is workplace design, office design, working from as small as just a small reception area all the way to over 2 million square feet projects. I also am an adjunct professor over at Endicott College. I teach undergrad and graduate level interior architecture.
Wonderful. And Crystal, welcome to LYF Architects. They're great folks. And actually, Crystal and I, we can actually practically see each other across Elm Square in downtown Andover because my office is kitty corner to her, so we can wave across the intersection. So cool. John, please.
Sure. John Profen. I work at UKG, which is a global workforce management company, and I lead our workplace. So anything to do with space, right? So the office, real estate, facilities, anything that happens in the space or around the space. And been with the company about 10 years. Prior to that, I was with Deloitte doing the same kind of stuff. And I look forward to chatting with everyone today on this timely subject. So.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Lisa.
Hi, Demetrius and everyone. Thank you for including me in this important discussion. I am the Director of Business Development for the town of Chelmsford. My role was created to address the empty office buildings that showed up here when John and others decided to vacate the town of Chelmsford, but that's okay. We're figuring it out and happy to be networking with this group. Thank you so much. We've been doing a great job filling up empty space. We're down by half. And the importance of workforce development, all levels of business are needing help. They're all asking questions. This is a great discussion. My background, almost 20 years now in business development, and really enjoy the work that I do, but these networking events are very important. And thank you for the participation to network further in this discussion. So thanks very much.
Awesome, great, thank you. Great, I'm happy that you all came to join us. So, 3 years ago, when Stephanie and I first started talking about this real estate webinar, we never had any idea what was going to be evolving over the last couple of years. So we kind of started off with these ideas, and then, of course, we had the pandemic, and so the topics started to change in and around, how we're dealing with the pandemic and all the different asset classes, with development, and life sciences and new concepts of living and new concepts of working, and basically the entire 10 webinar series last year was focused on that. As we kind of went into this world this year, we're a little more optimistic, but we're still obviously in this, especially with the new variant. And I think that really is going to be informing our conversation today, and really is kind of the crux point of our conversation today is how we're dealing with workplace and workforce. And I think we did the office talk, I think it was last spring, because we're still trying to figure out what was happening with office. So I wanted to give that until practically the last webinar last year, and we're still in the vortex of it. So I want to see where we're at, and particularly currently. So, I mean, a lot of office spaces have been dealing, for the last year, workspaces. I'm saying office, but which is kind of the center of this, but workspaces in general have been dealing with triage and trying to figure out how do you handle what's going on with the different expectations of the workforce and the different expectations of the workplace. So I guess the first question, and Crystal, I'll start with you on this, is the idea of currently, I mean, what are current groups that you're working with, what are they doing now to accommodate? How are they handling, where we are now in 2022?
So a lot of my clients, as you know, we're trying to all figure this out right now. We haven't figured it out. We don't really know what next week, next month, next year is going to bring. So I guess it starts with a lot of my clients are, one, establishing different work models, trying to come up with a number of employees that are going to be in the office in a given time. So a lot of companies are, everyone does different things, but what I've heard most is that there's 3 work models. There's the primarily working in the office, primarily working from home, and then a hybrid of that. I think the biggest challenge for a lot of my clients is identifying what that in-office ratio is. If we have 150,000 square feet right now over 2 or 3 floors, it's, most of the floors are primarily empty. What do we do? So I think that's the hardest thing is having a crystal ball and identifying the in-office ratio and what to design around. So as a designer, what we've talked about, what I recommend and what I've learned is we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know who's going to be in the office next week, how many people are going to be in the office next month, next year. So the biggest thing is when you design or renovate an existing office space is flexibility and adaptability. So what I mean by that, if you have 15 offices in a row, maybe we fit out those offices to have the flexibility to, one, be an office, but also very quickly be a small meeting space. A lot of my clients are modifying their workstations. Right now, they may open office. They're probably right now very fixed and non-flexible, non-adaptable. So we're looking at working with furniture dealers on how to modify these, maybe have a fixed panel in the middle, but everything that comes off that is flexible and adaptable. So that's the biggest thing. And also, I think we'll get into this more, is creating more community spaces and office parks and bringing people together in smaller areas. And another large component within the office is technology. So if you have a team of 25 people and only 10 are in office and the rest are remote, how do we work together collaboratively, seamlessly? And now everybody is having these virtual meetings within the open office. So you want to create these flexible small rooms for the ability to pop into a private area for these virtual meetings.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, absolutely. Thank you. John, I'm going to throw this over to you because, Kronos has probably one of the most creative office spaces I'd ever visited. So, so what are you guys doing insofar as handling this now? How are you adapting your current space? How are you dealing with your workforce and their concerns?
So fortunately, with our current space, if we have an existing lease, we're taking a little bit of a let's wait and see approach a little bit, right? Now, we were fortunate that the space that we created up in Lowell at Crosspoint, it's only 3 or 4 years old now, and we did create a lot of the things that Crystal spoke about. So first of all, can you guys all imagine having to do this, 15 years ago before we had Teams and Zoom and all these tools, right? All these technology tools, it'd be impossible. Thankfully, everybody had that, right? So that was one good thing. And our space was set up so that we had a lot of collaborative areas, a lot of community areas. We had learned from the old days of not having these really big conference rooms, these 10, 15, 20-person conference rooms. And we created a bunch of small huddle rooms, 2-person rooms, 4, 6-person rooms, and they're embedded within the space. So you don't have to walk 3 floors away or across the entire floor, but they're populated within the workspaces near where people work. So, if we're meeting, Demetrius, and we want to get up and have a little bit of a private call, we walk 10 feet away and we jump into one of these rooms, right? And again, there's all sorts of technology now on how you reserve these rooms. Some rooms are unreservable, right? We by design, we want them to be on demand. Other rooms, you can plan out a little bit further. So it's about this sort of different types of spaces, different feels of the space, more informal spaces, more community, more collaborative. But one of the other things Crystal mentioned is this challenge around how much space to dedicate to these kind of office workers. And, we're going through that now. So the whole benefit of bringing people together, of having people come in the office is togetherness, right? So if there's 5 of us and Crystal comes in on Monday and John comes in on Tuesday and Demetrius comes in on Wednesday and Lisa on Thursday and Stephanie on Friday, well, what good is that? We might as well just be sitting at home doing what we're doing right now. So we're sort of want people to come in on this. We're focusing right now on Wednesdays, and we see that, right? It's our highest population days. We create opportunities when people come in to get together, programming, food, right? Everyone who doesn't like a
Food,
free
yeah.
meal, right? That's an easy one, a no-brainer. But when you bring everyone in on that same day, it doesn't give you the ability to shed a lot of space, right? Because if you have to have a desk for everyone on Wednesdays, you almost need as much desks if they come in on Mondays or Wednesdays. So we're sort of going through that right now, and working through that challenge. And again, if we have an existing lease, it's easy. We kind of just do what we continue to do. But we do have some properties that are rolling over, and we are thinking about that. So for instance, in Mexico City, I was on a call yesterday, and we're going to go and try the co-working route there, right? We're going to go into a one of, whether it be a WeWork or a Spaces or one of the other names that we're all familiar with. And we think that model can work there. So again, we're not trying to say one size fits everywhere. What we do, and you got to look at the types of jobs that are taking place at that particular site. And certain types of roles are more conducive to a co-working environment versus a more sort of permanent space. So.
Okay, cool. No, thank you. So Lisa, I mean, what kind of vibrations are you feeling kind of at the town about people and how they're thinking of coming to work, especially at the municipal level? I mean, that's been a big challenge. I know with a lot of towns is with the town offices of having them staffed, but even in general, just kind of the businesses you're speaking to in general. I mean, what kind of vibe are you getting insofar as how they're dealing with things now?
Well, kind of twofold. First point, in the municipality here in the building, we do have a safety compliance officer. So each of us have gone through training for COVID response on how we manage our particular individual spaces, how we keep ourselves safe, and also continue to provide support to the public. For some time, it was a curbside service for a little bit. But it's a challenge. It's certainly a challenge. We've got sanitizing stations and all kinds of levels here to make sure that our building is safe for the public to come into as well. But we're here to provide a service, and the community, needs us each and every day. So that was quite an adjustment initially. That led to some other additional training needs and things like that. But as far as a municipal staff, we're very prepared and informed. And now, we're hosting clinics, vaccination clinics, booster shot clinics here inside our building at Town Hall for the general public. And, based on this experience and the learning, the lessons learned through the process, we're much better for it. And we're all continuing to work together great as a municipal team. The flip side of that, in the business world and trying to provide support with business development, talking with the building owners, and as Crystal and John were saying, my goal is business recruitment. So I'm going into the empty spaces and providing some guidance. And the best way to present these spaces is to really gut the space, create open views, so that vision of what Crystal's working on and how John's talking about using areas differently going forward, helping people to see that forward vision that's not always easy to see when you're looking at empty space and particularly office buildings. And then the smaller businesses are the ones that are hitting it, it's the toughest. You can't always do distancing, trying to keep each and every one safe. So a lot of case management going on, lots of one-on-one guidance for the smaller businesses. and still, trying to do that shop local and support our smaller community. It's definitely still very challenging.
Yes. No, thank you for that. So, I mean, this kind of leads to the next question, Lisa, as you're kind of bringing it in, because you're saying, you're dealing with businesses and, and particularly attracting businesses to Chelmsford. So just kind of throwing this out for everybody. And, I'm not going to necessarily go around but please feel free to speak whenever you make this as much as a conversation. You don't have to wait your turn, so to speak. So if you have something to say, just jump in. God knows I do. So that being said, just kind of throwing it out there, if you're looking at the future of this and looking at, this could be Crystal for your clients looking for a new location, or John, you're looking for new locations to move into, and Lisa, businesses coming and talking to you. I mean, what are we looking for now insofar as new locations? What are we looking for amenities for this? What are we looking for to attract and incentivize workers to kind of come to these locations? What are we looking to maximize where we are right now? So I'm just going to kind of open that up, looking for like new locations. What are you saying? Want to jump in?
Well, I'll grab that real quick. So, the baseline continues here in Chelmsford. Amenities are conveniences for the workforce. And on 129, that's our highest concentration of business area. So certainly trying to get some convenient, healthy food options in there. We all know Press Cafe is coming. We see the construction for the drive-through happening. But, post-COVID, everyone, I feel, has a different priority level of their own personal health and personal wellness. So we've been pursuing outdoor fitness options. We are working to install a fitness court similar to how Burlington has done that. We've cited a location, and I think the walking trails, and we see a lot of people out, and even just yesterday in the frigid temperatures, I see people out jogging at lunchtime. So I think trying to address those wraparound health, mental health, physical health, that continues to still be very important as a factor to attract workforce, attract businesses, and retain your workers. Just want to put that out there as an effort for what the town's been trying to do.
Well, I mean, mental health, and this is important, and I'm using this in a broad sense, and I'm going to, go to John on this question. And as you're looking to expand into other locations, and it's not just, it's the mental health of the workers, but it's also kind of the comfort level and the enticement of the worker to want to come into a location. So in looking at locations, so John, for example, what are you looking at now insofar as an expansion? What does this location need now that it wouldn't necessarily have needed 2 years ago?
So I think one of the things Lisa mentioned is amenities, right? That's huge, right? People don't want to just, they want more than just their office. You have to create other reasons for people to come to work other than just work. So we're looking to do something down in South Florida, 300,000 square feet. And a lot of the things Lisa talked about, we're looking to put in place. So an outdoor, now in Florida, it's a little easier, but an outdoor fitness area, a track around the property so that people can get out during their breaks. And it doesn't, by the way, it no longer has to be their lunch break, right? Doesn't matter when. If you're having a meeting and it's 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 3 in the afternoon, get out and do a walking meeting. So it's sort of doing these things. But the other thing is, I don't think people want to commute anymore. One of the things we learned during our last 2 years is, driving far, it doesn't have to be into the city, right? I live in Westboro and the office is in Lowell, and it's a long ride. And it's sometimes nice to be a little bit closer to the office, and going into a city. So I think people are going to want to look to go to places like Chelmsford, which is an incredible community, educated community, strong workforce, right? So all the tools you need, and you're not driving, into Boston 2 hours a day. People want to get out of work and be home or be near things that they can do, the gym. So that's sort of, we're looking at commuting distances, amenities, and not just the old amenities. Having a lunchroom is table stakes now. You just have to do it. It's the other things. It's the fitness areas. It's the on-site or nearby daycare and dry cleaning and sort of all the other things that support your life outside of work. So.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And Crystal, kind of on that same boat as well. I mean, are any of your clients, or I should say it this way, what are you seeing? And we're talking about office, but it doesn't have to just be office. I mean, we can talk about as retail as well, restaurants. I mean, what are you seeing insofar as like the redesigning of spaces moving forward? Kind of a new locations.
I agree. A lot of them are trying to figure out how do we get the employees to come back to work? How do we have them come back to work is definitely the amenities. And the health and well-being, a lot of times right now we have to wear a mask inside. We got to wear a mask most of the time around people. So to be able to, if you're in the city and you're in a tower, say you're in the Hancock Tower, you have to have mask breaks. So providing these rooms, these wellness rooms, maybe we provide wellness rooms that aren't just for new moms or employees that have an underlying health issue where they need to take that break. Now we provide these, we don't have to call them wellness rooms, maybe they're respite rooms or enclave rooms. Folks need to be able to get that mask break. I agree, any access to outside is really, really important to have that ability. Also, just on the point that both Lisa and John had brought up is about their commute time and driving. I find that a lot of my clients that are in the city, for example, so when you're in the city, you like the ability to, so most of them took public transportation. Well, no one wants to take public transportation anymore. So now that, so I'm just going to talk about the folks that are in the city, right? There's a lot of benefits being outside of the city for exactly what Lisa and John had said. So people have, you have the ability to have access to outside a lot more easily. Parking, more parking's available. But what I am finding a trend is the companies that are in the city, because not everybody's coming into the office now, if they had parking available for whoever, just a percentage of employees, now they have opened up that parking for everybody. So because a lot of people don't want to necessarily take public transportation now, so now they're driving in. And now they have the ability to park somewhere because now the parking isn't designated to specific staff because they don't need it anymore. To be able to drive is also a benefit. So without going on and on and on, but yeah, I think a lot of my clients are like, how can these communal spaces are really, really important. If you have a company that has 150, 200 people, if you have something going on Wednesdays, let's say, you can't have, 50 people all at once or 75 people all at once. So you want to break up teams, let's say, maybe, so Wednesday, maybe there's lunch. People love food. Fridays there's breakfast, and maybe you put everybody on, different, you break up the company on rotation, let's say. But commute, so we actually all kind of briefly talked last week. We talked about when you work home all alone, you get very kind of lonely. So as humans, we want to be near people. So I suggest what I'm finding with my companies is they're providing more of amenities, meaning reasons for people to come in. So some of them are training, maybe having an expert come in and do workforce training. Maybe there's workshops, to get people in, but you got to do it in small groups.
Oh, wonderful. No, fantastic. And, it's interesting because I want to just kind of switch gears just a little bit here, kind of hearing the three of you speak, and there have been a couple of things that have been kind of implied, but I'm gonna kind of jump in on this. And I'm gonna bring up the 800-pound gorilla in the conference room of Massachusetts, which is workforce and housing. So, and the idea of, we talked about commuting, you talked about, access to amenities, and we talked about, well, why don't I just stay home? So, I mean, this has been, I think, probably our major, everything always goes back to housing in this area and just in Massachusetts in general. So, I mean, what I'm starting to get an idea of, and the grand issue is the fact that, you know, most people commute. Most people commute a long way, and we sit in a lot of traffic. Even during COVID, we still sit in a lot of traffic.
Yes.
And so, what are you all seeing, you know, insofar as, you know, where your workforce is coming from, or other options that your workforce can be, you know, closer to where they work? Is it becoming kind of, you know, I mean, once upon a time, generations ago, you know, you worked in the same town in which you lived in, and, you know, obviously, you know, now people commute 45 minutes, you know, one way, on Route 495, you know, which is a disaster. But what are we seeing now? Are we starting to see a shift again towards the workforce being in the same community as where they, and it becoming a community again? This is where I work, this is where I live, this is where I play. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there. Anybody wants to jump in on that?
Well,
I mean,
sorry,
ahead.
Jonathan, just real quick. I don't really have like it, but I actually, I live up here on the North Shore. I live in Danvers, Massachusetts. And for years, most of my career, I worked in Cambridge or Boston. Prior to the pandemic, I was my commute, no joke. I took Route 1 into Cambridge, and my commute on an average day was 2 hours, sometimes more, sometimes not. And I used to leave work. You tried to play games, you tried to stay later or leave early, and I felt like that window just got larger and larger. Didn't matter when you left, you still were sitting in the commute. Didn't really matter how early you left in the morning, you were still sitting in the commute. And I definitely want Jonathan to speak on this, but just me personally, and a lot of people I know in this industry, I now, as you know, I work in Andover, and I work with a lot of people here. And the two owners of Andover are Ken File and Mark Yanowitz. They live in Andover as well. I think my commute is the best commute in the whole entire world now, Danvers to Andover. It is amazing. So I just wanted to let you know, I'm definitely one of those people. I now work near where I live. I mean, I don't live in Andover, but it's a huge difference.
Listen, I'm just to throw in there. Listen,
Yeah.
I lived in New York City for many years, and I taught at a college on Long Island. It would take me 2.5 hours each way. That was just kind of the gig. So
yeah, it is. And I would leave work and I'd go, well, I guess I'm going to go find my place in line.
Yeah. I can walk to my office now, so I wouldn't, but I could if I wanted to. So, John, let's throw that to you.
Yeah, so we spent a ton of time thinking about this when we decided an office. So when we were looking, by the way, the only reason we moved from as Lisa knows, when we moved from Chelmsford, we needed more space, and parking was a challenge, right? Of course, nowadays parking is not so big a deal, as Crystal shared, but at the time it was one of our big challenges. But when we looked at, just like any company would, we looked at Burlington and Waltham and all these places. But really, what drove us to stay in the old general area was where our folks lived, right? And we recognized that had we moved to a Burlington, had we moved to a Waltham, we'd be disrupting a lot of people's lives, right? They made their homes, made their decisions. But the nice thing about the community we're in right now is if people want to spend a little bit more in a home, they can do so, right? They can go to a community that's a little bit more, has a little different housing stock, but they can also go to other communities that's a bit more affordable. So the variety that exists around our current location is just wonderful. We've also seen people during COVID who have made the decision to move away, right? They said, oh, we're going to be home for now. We're not going to, we don't have to come into the office anymore. And we've seen some people who have made the decision to kind of, I'm going to go to a much different geography. I mean, states away, not cities, but states away. And they made the decision now to be a remote in the sense of where they work in a regular business. They're still going to come back to the home office at times for meetings, for these opportunities, for coding days, for training days, whatever they may be. But we've certainly seen people have made that aggressive decision to move to North Carolina or South Dakota or wherever it may be, right? To this, again, a really different housing market that's completely out of the geography where we are. So.
Cool. No, thank you. And Lisa, I know that Chelmsford's doing quite a bit insofar as housing. I know we've got some new housing and some other programs. So why don't you chat a little bit about that.
Sure. So, yeah, it's no secret that Chelmsford has been doing lots of housing projects, and it's also no secret that we have a sewer capacity challenge, as I'll put it. But, you know, there's workarounds for some of that. Sewer capacity is not a quick fix, as we all know, very expensive, but you can see that the UMass West Campus project is still 400 units coming into that area, and they are building their own wastewater treatment plant. So we are having conversations to keep projects moving, and housing is definitely very high on the list for business attraction. We all know that executives want to live close to work. And Chelmsford has that great assortment of high-end homes and market rate rentals. And I think that's also partly how we've been managing to fill up some of our empty space over the last 3 or 4 years, is our effort to be a housing choice community, and just creating that open discussion for developers to come talk with us about how some of this housing can happen in certain areas of town. Aside from what that perception and image looks like, you can see, you know, the housing on Mill Road, pretty challenging topography, but that project was fully occupied before any of those units were even built. And same with the downtown luxury condos. Those condos sold 550, 600K a piece in those condos in Center Village. They were sold before the construction was done. So there's certainly a very strong demand. It's how the town and those decision makers, the voters want to manage some of this that's happening through the sewer moratorium. But if you follow along on that UMass West campus, it's still, you know, it's coming through the permitting process, but they are managing their own creative solution for getting that infrastructure done.
Wonderful. And so then let me kind of do the follow-up question with that, Lisa, is since we are, again, we're talking about the expansion of business and other such things. I mean, what is Chelmsford doing to incentivize some of the businesses to actually move there, move to Chelmsford? And as you know, we're Route 3 oriented in this group, and we know we're kind of looking at, but you know, is Chelmsford doing anything in particular, you know, insofar as either grants or programs to help offices adapt, or to attract businesses with these, to attract these new businesses to this area?
So it's, you know, it's a multi-layer approach. Chelmsford has not had a outward reaching position, right? So that's my new role, is to be out there and making those connections. And the way we do that is, you know, layering the reasons why you want to choose Chelmsford, and how Chelmsford can be a different consideration aside from the other towns. So the zoning, modernized zoning, overlay districts, we all have expedited permitting. We all know the buzzwords for business friendly, those types of things. But in my outward role, some of these businesses have never had to consider workforce training funds or recruitment events or mass hire or any of these, you know, connections, getting much more connected with the you know, extreme level of college institutions all around us. They've never had to go and pursue these options before, and some of them aren't even aware of that. So part of the role here with municipal team response is to bring these representatives to the table of, here's what we have available to support you, free, no cost. This is what we're here to do for you. And all of those other programs that roll along with that. So in my role of business development townwide, all size businesses, it's really addressing what are your needs individually, and then we bring that to the table. Do they know about the Workforce Training Fund program and the 4 or 5 different layers to that program of how they can do on-the-job training, or, creating job sharing, things like that. It's really trying to get face time with these employers to figure out how best can this region in the Middlesex area, which has just unbelievable resources here, Middlesex 3 Coalition being one of them, very connected, thinking about the number of businesses here that provide services for each other. So it's that type of response, and then staying involved, not just approving the permits and saying, here's the meeting you need to go to for conservation, but staying involved and following up, because things are changing daily. I learned today that the state should be putting out more grant programs. Just when you thought all of that went away, we're still trying to recover the businesses, and there should be some more grant programs coming out soon. So my role is to push that out and then help them to apply, help them to navigate, the economic injury disaster loan process. It's not easy. A lot of them have never had to apply for these things or even where to start. So I'm not sure if I answered your question directly enough, but it is multi-layered, and it's all about bringing all these people that we're here together into my circle to help Chelmsford provide the best response and support that we can.
Well, I mean, it's just good to know that, thank you, Lisa. It's just good to know that, the state has these programs, the disaster relief programs that, a lot of these companies and some of these struggling companies can actually use to adapt their existing spaces as well. So that's great. So
Demetrius, I was going to say, there's like, I just know when we moved to Lowell, Maria Dickinson's office, they would partner with us, whether it be housing credits for people if they wanted to first-time home buyers, tips to build out the space, job training grants, and the same thing when we were in Chelmsford, we were able to do something to put the traffic light in. So these towns do partner, and I think, whether you're working with a Peter Milano, whomever it may be, who's been a great friend of ours at M3, right? But I mean, I think these guys do a great job, and you don't have to go to Boston to be in a city, right? Whether you're in Chelmsford, which is next door or not, I mean, great art districts, great restaurants. You don't have to travel into the city to be in and around a city environment. I mean, Lowell's a great example of that. They have all the amenities that Boston has, but you don't have to. You can live in an affordable house, a house that's affordable. You don't have to commute into the city. It's an easy ride. So, I mean, I think these are the benefits that and that people are going to want that, particularly coming out of COVID.
Yeah, and also just, the government role of being a point of assistance and a point of resources, and not just paying your tax bill and not just getting your inspections and your permits, but a useful participant in the process of supporting, either whether you choose Chelmsford or Burlington or Lowell. This is regional. These are regional programs. So it's helpful to just engage and stay involved in the process.
Wonderful, great, thank you. No, so I'd like to open it up and bring Stephanie back, and I know there were a couple of questions we got from the folks in the audience. So Stephanie, I'm just going to kind of throw it over to you here.
Well, first of all, thank you all. This is a great conversation, and I want to ask the participants if anyone has questions to either throw them into the chat box, or I know Bob France over at Senate Construction had his hand up, but he wrote out his question. So Bob, I'm just going to read your question, and I think it's for you, John, because it's regarding the discussion with your facility in Mexico. And he's seen extensive offshore resources for marketing, IT, engineering, architects, etc. From a global perspective, what are your thoughts regarding our region remaining competitive globally?
I work closely with our talent acquisition folks, because obviously it ties in quite a bit to our real estate, right? And how much space we need. And I know we look to sort of optimize all our markets. So we're able, there's still obviously, it goes without saying, the New England area, the Boston area, a huge amount of talent. But, I'll kind of joke a little bit here, but our Mexico colleagues say the same thing. What about offshoring these jobs to USA, or, our colleagues in India, right? So we're a global company, and we have folks working all over the world, and we look to work in markets that have the talent that we require, and kind of optimize on that.
Great. Great, thank you. And again, if anyone has questions, just raise your hand and your remote hand, I guess, and we can give you the ability to ask the question, to speak. But I have two questions while everyone else is doing that. One is, Crystal, it goes back to what you were saying, and John, I think maybe you might want to jump in as anyone jump in. But you were saying earlier about that you need to come up with ideas, reasons to bring people back to the office, and that you guys have been coming up with different ideas. And I'm just wondering for the companies that are listening in as well too, instead of us all kind of coming up with our own ideas in our own silos, not just, well, what you're coming up with, but also where do you go for these ideas? Are you just guys throwing ideas out and seeing what sticks, or are there resources for that as well?
Yeah, for ourselves, we're listening, right? We're listening to our employees and what they need. And I think that's what companies need, because not every office is the same. We talk about the different generations in the workplace, right? So we have retirement planning for some people, right? So we have seminars that people can participate in. But we also have a scholarship program for the folks coming right out of school, or loan repayment. We have different wellness programs for people who are more prone to, type 2 diabetes, which tends to be the older workforce, right? So I think it's about, food choices to different, not only different types of, or different palates, right? So it's about listening and really structuring your program around what your employees need. That's how we approach it.
Yeah, I agree. It's listening to the employees and what they're asking. I know Lisa brought up the workforce training. I worked at a very large architectural interior design engineering firm in Cambridge for many, many years, and they got the workforce training grant. Most amazing training that I've ever experienced. It's a lot about, learning about yourself and learning about working with, there's all different topics. I think that, like John had said, providing that type of training for all the different types of people within an organization will bring people back. It's a lot of role playing, a lot of, there's many different things that you can work on. If you're in management, they work on management skills. If you're communication skills, strength finders, Myers-Briggs, all of that. Those are really great. If you could get a grant like that, to have to be lucky enough to get one of those for an organization is an amazing. These are some of them are just half a day, week long. These are really great things. Those are great amenities. So what that is it's improving employees, improving themselves professionally, personally, emotionally. Those are great benefits.
And that's a great idea too. And I guess I'll throw out to anyone listening too, if your company could benefit with that, drop us a line, I guess, at Middlesex 3, and then we can, I think it could be nice to do it from a regional perspective too, and apply for grants to help all of the companies in the region. We've been trying to do that. So
definitely another way really is this, right? This is another great way to, because what do we know? What do I know? I don't know everything.
I know.
I know this much of everything, right? So it's working and doing these networking type of events and talking to people and belonging to industry groups. And you kind of, hang out with other people and see what they're doing, because we borrow a lot of great ideas, right? And that I think while it's important to listen, it's also great to interface with other folks and kind of learn what they're doing. And I think the last thing is, don't be overcommitted. If you make them, if it's not working, change it up, right? Don't try to force something that's not working. If you're doing something, we've run it. We had a bus come to the office to clean people's teeth, right? You go out kind of like the vision bus, the old library bus. It was a hygienist bus. Didn't work, so we changed it. We don't do it again. We do something else. So be flexible, change it up.
Yeah, totally. Flexibility, adaptability. As an interior designer and architect, if you're looking, you don't know what to do as a company, and say you have all this extra space, do a small pilot. Carve out a section on a floor and try these things out. Try different things, whether it's actually changing up the open office, how you design the open office, working with furniture dealerships, big, large creative office pavilion, steel case, a very large dealerships. They will loan you furniture to try things out. So try it out. We don't know.
And I think it was during the prep session, John, I think you were the one saying that cafeterias are on their way out, that we're not.
They
seeing-
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're doing, you know, not that I need to give Fooder a little commercial here, but we use Fooder in a lot. We think that's one great model. It's kind of the indoor food truck, right? But the place we're building out and looking to build in South Florida, we're going to do a food truck pavilion, right? So again, not traditional cafeteria. And it's not only about the variety of food choices, but it's also about the variety of where you want to eat your lunch, right? Some people want to go back and eat at their desk. Other people want to eat outdoors. Other people want to eat in 2 minutes. Other people want to have an hour lunch. So the changing it up helps by using these sort of different models. It gives something for everybody.
Yeah.
The other thing when we build a space is we try to set a certain amount of our budget aside, fix the things that Crystal just mentioned, you know, oh, I did this, but it really didn't work, so I'm going to fix it, right? So, you know, set a little bit of aside if you're building new space, but you know, 6 months from now, go, what's working? You know, did I build something that's not working? Did I create a space that's not happening? And fix it, right? Because otherwise it's just inefficient, doesn't make sense.
So I'm on Jonathan's point on these cafeterias. Gone are the day of these large cafeterias that have all the same type of tables. Those are gone. I'm always redesigning those cafeterias, and you break them up. You break them up like you go to a restaurant. You have you know, soft seating. You have high top seating for these quick impromptu conversations. Just gonna have, you know, come here. We're gonna have a quick little muffin. I don't want to commit. You know, you don't want to overcommit. So I do these high tops. These large, I call them dining and meeting. They're meeting spaces, dining spaces. Get up from your desk and work. Maybe sometimes you want to work in that area. They're great spaces for all office meetings, large digital displays, you know, company, you know, so they're multi-purpose rooms. And when we design them, we break them up in many different types of seating, many booths, soft seating, high seating, traditional, movable, everything's movable.
You know, so I've got two more I've got one question. I know Dave Maker has one as well too, that I was going to throw out there too, but I'll start with mine because mine might not be quite so optimistic. I'm just wondering, and the answer might be no, but in terms of challenges, are there, you know, because we've got a lot of municipalities on here as well too, are there any challenges, and I'm thinking in terms of permitting perhaps, that you might face in order to create some of these spaces, indoor, outdoor spaces, or things that the municipalities can do to further it along?
I mean,
And again,
I think in general, quick permitting has helped. Like you go in some of these markets, like, oh, it's going to take you 8 months to get a permit. It's like, oh. And so I mean, it's just tough. And anyone who's built office space or any architect I think will have the same sort of reaction. But so like, you know, I think these towns, these cities, they just need to have a really efficient permitting process. And I think it's key to partner, like Lisa spoke about this. You got to partner early and be, you know, be a partner of your customer. So if you're working with an office, you know, occupier, partner up with them early. And I know Lisa does that, but that's what I would say from an occupier. That's one of the needs that I would have.
Well, it's certainly teamwork, but I always tell the businesses, if they call me, I'll take a walk downstairs and go see the gas inspector and find out what the delay is or why aren't they scheduled. That's part of assisting business, you know, in business development. So I try to just put that out there as a measure, but got to work closely with the building department and all departments actually. So yeah.
Great. And I know we have a number of communities online as well too that are as committed to making, that's why we're here, right? We want to work with the businesses. So, and another question as well too, and if anyone again has questions, just shoot them over. But I have one more question from Dave Maker. He talks about the 4-day work week and getting people out of the house and improving productivity in the office. And I'm going to say, Dave, I think your question is, are companies looking at the 4-day work week? Are people companies moving more and more in that direction.
Maybe Lisa, you could, I don't know if Dave heard what you shared earlier, but I think you shared a great example of this, right? And probably sort of innovative for a municipality.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been about a year and a half or so now, but the town took measures to adjust our open schedule. So we work late on Tuesday till 7 o'clock, but we have Friday afternoons off. We close early on Friday. And I think that measure was to create a perk for the employees in the same way that private industry has perks. Municipal government can do that as well. And I know the employees here, we really appreciate having Friday afternoon off from work. And it's not easy to do, but it really makes a difference. And when you're trying to keep your workforce happy, it really adds an extra benefit and an extra perk that way. And I think some other municipalities have started to do that. Would really like to do a 4-day work week. I mean, that I'd rather work some longer days and have that stretch, but to have the municipality take that step was a really big move, and we're all pretty happy about it over here.
Thank you. Demetrius, I'm going to hand it over to you for any closing thoughts as well too, or questions.
No, I have no other questions. I mean, from what I've gleaned from this conversation, again, thank you for the three of you, have been fantastic on this. It's just, I mean, we're forever evolving in how we are going to respond, not react. I think at first last year we were reacting. And this is why at the beginning of the conversation, I brought up the term triage. I think we were kind of reacting to what was happening. And now we're actually responding to it, with responsibility, so to speak, to use that term. And I think we're looking at things not like this is a quick fix, but this is how things are going to be moving forward. So, so Stephanie, you know me, I am always the eternal optimist. And so that being said, it's unfortunate how this has evolved, but necessity is the mother of invention. And I think we've created some wonderful ways of how to reimagine office and workforce and just providing for the people, who create the engine for our industries. So I think it's fantastic. So yeah. I really appreciate that, but I'm pretty good at this point, Steph.
Good. Well, I don't think it's the end of the conversation. I think we're going to continue to be talking about this as well too. And Jonathan, back to your point as far as even our in-person event, how things are going to be come February. Things are just changing so quickly too. So we'll just keep going, and we've got another event coming up next month as well too, and we'll just keep on going. So Jonathan, Lisa, Crystal, thank you all for
Thank you
for all your insights for the discussion. You've given us a lot to think about, and Demetrius, thank you as always for moderating the panel. And I think we're coming to the end of the hour, so hopefully I think it's like we've said, everyone's going to walk away with something to think about and learning something new. That's the idea.
Great.
So thank you all, and enjoy the day, and hopefully it'll warm up as well too.
All right, good seeing everyone. Stay healthy and safe.
Take care.
Take care, guys.
care.